What's going on, everyone? Nick Falato here to break down another undrafted rookie signed to the New York Giants, and that is wide receiver Ayir Asante out of Wyoming, but was previously at Holy Cross. This is a Jersey kid, born and bred, Franklin Township, ended up going to St. Peter's Prep in Jersey City. Now, the Giants only gave him $4,000 guaranteed on the undrafted market. For reference, Missouri offensive lineman Marcellus Johnson received $170K, and North Dakota State offensive lineman Jake Kubis received $270K. So $4,000, it's not all that much, and the wide receiver room is pretty crowded right now. But there are some traits I want to discuss about Asante. This is a player who clocked over 21 miles per hour more than 5 times in 2023. He was used as a field stretcher in Wyoming's more pro-style type of offense, whereas Holy Cross ran an upbeat, RPO heavy, no huddle offense. In an interview with Draft Diamond's Nick DiMiglio, Asante discussed some of his favorite wide receivers and who he models his game after. He was quick to point out that he is his own individual, but he loves studying the nuances of Stephon Diggs, the release packages of Devontae Adams, and the route running and separation ability of Keenan Allen. Another interesting takeaway from that podcast was Asante discussed how he didn't arrive at Wyoming until the summer, until training camp, and he had to quickly assimilate and pick up the playbook, a playbook that was much different than the offense that was run at Holy Cross. And that's noteworthy due to the complexities of Brian Daboll's offense. Asante is a shade under 5'10", 181 pounds, albeit he put on 12 pounds during the offseason, so he was playing at around 168, 169 pounds when he was at Wyoming. He ran a 4.52 with a 1.63 10-yard split, which is not great for a receiver of his size, but you can feel the play speed when you turn on the tape. And we're about to go over that here in a little bit. At Holy Cross, Asante was used a lot in the slot, and that rhymes. When he went to Wyoming, he started aligning a little bit more on the outside, but again, he was mainly used as somebody who was just going to stretch the field. He was in motion frequently, averaged 17.3 yards per catch in 2023, but in 2022, he averaged over 21 yards per catch. You can see just the speed here. Now he's going up against a smaller school defensive back, so that's not necessarily what I want to pay attention to. But on this specific play, he did clock over 21 miles per hour. You can see good forward lean off the line of scrimmage, explodes. You have a defender who is off leverage to the inside. You can see that because Asante's at the bottom of the numbers, and then this defender is at the top of the numbers with his hips turned towards where the post safety would be, the middle of the field. And Asante just kind of chews into the cushion. You can see he gets on top of him a little bit, but ultimately the throw doesn't really come out well and lands in front of him, and the coverage is solid. I just wanted to showcase that burst off the line of scrimmage. You could see some natural receiving skills here and his ability to find a soft spot through the contact, which is something he could definitely improve upon. And he mentioned that actually in the podcast that I brought up before, is his inability to fight through contact. Now he weighs a little bit more, so maybe he'll be able to. I'm not 100% certain if he's still going to be able to clock to over 21 miles per hour as frequently as he did in college. But on this play, I like how he sifts through this traffic. You got an aggressive cornerback who plants his feet in the ground, not gaining any depth whatsoever. You can use your peripheral vision, and you could see this defender sink down. So you have two defenders splitting this hash. So Asante tries to go to the inside, sees that other defender to the inside of the jamming defender is not gaining any depth still. So Asante just turns his head, works his way into this open throwing window. Football gets put on him, and he just takes it to the house. Touchdown, Wyoming. You'll see a little bit better from this angle too. Hits the back foot. Good throw right over the top of this defender who is more than likely not going to be in the NFL. Asante takes it to the house. And here are a bunch of plays that highlight Asante's shiftiness in space. He has very nimble and quick feet and juke moves, and he can make people look silly like this. Got to keep it all in context. These are not NFL defenders. Asante does not have an NFL body. If he makes the roster, it would have to be through special teams. I'll just say that right now. This isn't somebody who's going to crack this receiver room right now, especially after they added Malik Neighbors. But you can see how there's change of direction. There's quick, explosive jukes and burst. Now he does a really good job getting shifty when there are defenders with momentum attempting to close with on him. You'll see that a bunch of times throughout this. But it's going to be a lot different in the NFL, as we know. You're not going to be able to do that in the NFL nearly as often. Make guys miss, make guys look silly. Now, this is against Texas, at least. So you have a Big 12 defense that was in the Final Four, which you're going up against. Lost to Washington and Michael Penix. But he has a I can miss you in a phone booth type of play style. And I liked on this play too, because you could see it only a little bit from the end zone angle, is how he comes back to the football, plays through this catch point, makes this catch, keeps his balance, and then gets north for a couple extra yards. On tape, you can see Asante process what the defense is doing, and then him understand where to go based on that coverage. You talked about that on the podcast too, about his film study, his film preparation, how Wyoming did a very good job putting their players into a position to succeed based on the percentages of what the opposing defense did. That's what good college programs do. And you could tell just by listening to Asante, not only did he know how to prepare for games, he knew how to interpret it, and it helped him, in his words, slow down his process throughout plays. So you're not playing as fast. And that's what you'll love to see too. Present your hands, get through the contact, make yourself smaller than you actually are. He's already really small. Get into the end zone. Now, Asante, this is a player who, and he gets his foot down here. This is a touchdown. It's another aspect of his game that he's pretty damn solid at. Like, he doesn't have a big catch radius. It's 30 1/4 inches, 72-inch wingspan. That's remarkably bad for a wide receiver in the NFL. Sub 9-inch hands, not good. But he actually tracks a football pretty damn well. And you could see it on that play, especially over the shoulder. I think the lack of catch radius definitely hurts him when he is more on the horizontal plane. But when he's on this vertical plane, he can track the football. He has some ups. I think he jumped 36 inches is what it said in the vertical, and he tracks it into his hands, and he presents pretty soft hands for a guy who has very small hands, which is just a reality he has to overcome. See, this is what Wyoming did. They used him in motion a lot. They would motion him inward. They would motion him outward just to get the defense to adjust and to prevent him from having to deal with press coverage, which is going to be an issue at the next level as well. He only dealt with press coverage like 5% of his snaps. So you motion him off the line of scrimmage, you get him into a natural stacked position before, you release him inside, you force that outside cornerback to work over the top of the traffic of an outside release, and now that defender is going to be in a side straddle trying to cut off the angle and not allow Asante to the outside. But there's too much depth here, as you could see, where Asante could put that foot in the ground and create that separation. Get that defensive back's hips all twisted up. Angle inward. Fire off, gets really low into his break, you could see. It doesn't even look like he's running that fast. It looks very controlled, right? Doesn't even look like he's running, and then he explodes out of that break. Makes a catch towards the sideline. Get the first down. Here we see him again, work into the blind spot, open that defender up, and then he just doesn't catch the football. He had 22 drops in college. 12 of them were in 2021, so he cleaned it up in his final year at Holy Cross, and then the 1 year at Wyoming. But that limited catch radius is just going to force quarterbacks to be very precise with the football, or else you're going to risk plays like this. And this is an issue in Asante's game. But I like this route, right? You're going to lean inward. You're going to get into the middle of the field, and you're going to force that cornerback to open his hips and then start to stride out like he's running towards the middle of the field. And then Asante just puts that foot in the ground again, a little bit wide with the arms, right? A little bit of a wacky cut at that point, but it's fine. He gets his foot down. The defensive back is completely overzealous and working way too far up the field, threatened by the speed of Asante. Then Asante works right underneath into the blind spot, and this would have been a nice first down catch, but fortunately, it was dropped. Here we're going to see him work over the top of this safety. He doesn't bring this in, but it's more so because it's a bad throw. But sifting through traffic, seeing what the defense is doing, goes around the apex, then he looks like he's going over the middle of the field. But he feels that safety bearing down. He must have saw it. Maybe it was something he studied on film. So then he works over the top of that safety, and he has a ton of separation. This should be an easy touchdown. Lay it over the top of that safety, put it by the end zone marker, and he just underthrows it, hits it about the 2-yard line, and the safety is able to get back in the phase and secure this catch. This is a tough play for Asante. But you'd like to see receivers come down with plays similar to this. This is just an underthrown pass, so you don't really want to hurt him for it. But I will say, at the catch point. This isn't somebody who's going to command a catch point. It's going to be very difficult for you to do that with a 72-inch wingspan and sub 9-inch hands and not being 5'10". So you have to win with speed. And he does. I mean, he's a speedy wide receiver. Again, the GPS tracking data doesn't lie. You can see it on some of these plays. And he has some toughness to him too. Now, I think working through contact is something he could definitely do a better job at. He drew quite a few offensive pass interference penalties. That's because a lot of these players were threatened by him. And he has plays like this, where it's going to be a cover two. You can notice the cover two. You can see how that safety is working over the top of him specifically. And now, what does he do? This is against Texas. He just fades into the soft spot, and then presents a target, climbs a ladder, plucks the football out of the air, makes a catch. Very smart play, tough play. Here we're going to see it again. Work towards your quarterback. Get away from the defender. And even if you're going to pick up a couple yards, it's a 1st and 10 play. Make the catch. Right now, you already have 3 yards. Just get upfield. He ends up getting a first down out of that. That's based off of understanding the situation, understanding the coverage, and then bailing your quarterback out. Every quarterback wants a safety valve like that. You're against Holy Cross, just catch the deep post. Like, what are you going to do if you're this defender? There's no safety. You're probably going to lose at this level. It's a small school. Asante, again, ran like a 4.5, but he plays a little bit faster than that. Get bad coverage here against Colorado State. But you can see some natural receiving skills. Jump, high point. Now, any wide receiver playing for a Division I school should be able to do this. But I do like seeing him get both feet in bounds, and then toe drag swag this, Nate Burleson style. Good concentration, good balance. Good eyes, good eye discipline. Here he does work through some contact, and I really like this play because I think it showcases the tracking ability that we were talking about. I think he does a really good job at the top of his break, using that outside arm to shield from the jam and then get his eyes directly on the quarterback to catch this slant. And he plucks it right out of the air. Ends up getting tackled. That's a difficult catch. It's a very underrated catch over the middle of the field. You can see that quarterback. This is an RPO. Quarterback goes into the mesh point and figures he could fit that football in, which is kind of funny because number 6 doesn't really bite, and it looks like number 6 is the read defender. And there's a pretty big hole. 5 would have crashed down on that, though. So he ends up throwing this anyways. And then, boom, plucked it right out of the air. I love these shifty wide receivers who are light on their feet. I love when they take hits like this and get right back up, too. Nice and tough. But ultimately, with a player like Asante, similar to most UDFAs, it's a very, very uphill climb for a player like this to make the roster. And when you can't secure simple passes like this, and he does sometimes, but whenever they are outside of his frame, when he has to extend outside of his frame, it's a problem. It's difficult. It's not something that naturally comes to him. And from a measurable standpoint, it's a very uphill battle. Small hands, small wingspan, not the biggest frame, very slight framed. It looks like this is a good play by the defender too, but it hits him in the hands and he just can't secure it through that contact. And here's kind of a catch radius play that I was referencing before. This isn't necessarily a good throw. I mean, the quarterback is under duress. This is back at Holy Cross. And it's not necessarily on target, but the limited catch radius that he presents is going to put quarterbacks into a situation, again, where he's going to have to be very precise. And this, you just want to see your wide receiver be able to run underneath that and just pluck it out of the air. But when you have sub 31-inch arms, almost sub 30-inch arms, which is in like the 8th percentile, it's tough to overcome that. Now, I'll say this, Wan'Dale Robinson has 0 percentile arm length. He's overcoming it, but there's a big difference in talent between Asante and Wan'Dale Robinson. Wan'Dale Robinson is an incredibly talented individual. And I'm not saying Asante isn't, but it's not necessarily going to be easy for him to crack the roster, but anything is possible. Injuries happen in training camp. And I think Asante does offer something on special teams. He has kick return experience, and his short area quickness and shiftiness, his ability to process what he sees and read his blocks, like we saw on that one play, I think it was the 3rd play in this montage, if you want to call it that. That could come in handy. There are a lot of other guys who can also handle that. Gunnar Olszewski, Tyrone Tracy Jr., etc. Here we're going to see a nice release off the line of scrimmage, get to the inside, and I love how he just uses that outside hand. It's subtle, right? But just swats the jam attempt and then he's able to gain leverage. He has about a step on that cornerback, and he's running into space. But the throw again, it's an accurate throw this time, just before the numbers, but he can't haul it in. It's not as good hauling in and tracking in the football, catching it in stride on the horizontal plane on plays like this. Much better when it's on the vertical. You can see this throw is right on target, and it's just can't be hauled in. That's inexcusable. They happen sometimes. I just think it's something that happens more with a player of this profile, and from what I've seen on the film, as you guys can see right now, happen a little bit too much. Plays like that. Goes up the middle of the field, tries to one-hand snag it, tips it right to a defender, and the defender takes it to the house. And against Colorado State again. Yeah, I love this play. And it wasn't something that was throughout his tape, but he slows up on this seam, and you could see how this is a beautiful play by this cornerback, mind you. The cornerback here, I'll run the whole play so you see it. Just undercuts it, ends up getting this interception, and beats Asante to where Asante is supposed to be. And if you watch, once he goes to the inside, you see Asante just slow up and allows the cornerback to do that. You can't have that, man. What are we doing? What are we doing? No, you can't have that. This is a beautiful play. This is a mid-pointing. We talk about mid-pointing on the podcast a lot, right? This is mid-pointing. This cornerback has a 3-by-1, and the defense playing middle of the field, closed, cover 3. So he's going to be responsible for the vertical of the 1 or the 2. So what he has to do is he has to split the difference between the 1 and the 2, and he has to bail. You can see how he bails a little bit, and while getting his eyes on the quarterback, he's looking right at the number 2.
Hello, I'm number 2.
Which is Asante, and he sees Asante start to go vertical, so can't cheat too far inside because you still need to defend against if this is 4 verts and the number 1 goes. So he has to kind of still hover a little bit closer to the numbers until he sees the quarterback commit to throw to the number 2. And once he commits to throw the number 2, you can see him just break right to the catch point and make that interception. Beautiful play by that cornerback. And I don't know why I went into a film breakdown on the cornerback, but I felt like that guy deserves some praise. But Asante needs to do a better job there. All right, everybody, that was my quick breakdown of Ayir Asante, the Wyoming wide receiver, the UDFA, who was guaranteed $4K by the New York Giants. Not a ton of money. Uphill battle, not the biggest guy. Faster speed than he timed at his pro day. Very agile in a phone booth. Can he make some guys miss in space? Yes. Could it be a punt returner or a kick returner? More than likely a kick returner. Didn't really do too much punt returning to my knowledge at Holy Cross or at Wyoming. A couple fair catches here and there. But kick returning? Maybe. But the Giants added a lot of kick returners. A player like Asante would probably benefit from some unfortunate incidents that would happen to other Giants players. I don't want to say it. I think we all know. But that would be his path to the 53-man roster. This is a player, though, I'll say this, who in preseason, he might be a lot of fun to watch because he's interesting and he has that game-breaking speed. The Giants kind of already have that on the roster with Jalen Hyatt, but if he can carve out a niche and a role on special teams, whether that be as a returner, as a gunner, whatever it is, that can go a long way for a player like this. Didn't have a ton of production. Only had slightly over 1,500 yards throughout his 5 years in college. Only 100 catches on 188 targets with 18 touchdowns. So not the most productive, but he was also playing at Holy Cross and then Wyoming. Overall, Ayir Asante has a short area quickness that is going to be desired to play at the NFL level. I think he also has some very enticing speed. I don't know if it's game-changing for the NFL, but over 21 miles per hour several times in 2023 is not something to just write off. Ultimately, though, I don't know if he's going to be good enough at the catch point to stick on the roster. Pulling for the guy as we're pulling for him all. He's going to be exciting to watch throughout preseason. But thank you everyone for tuning in to this quick little breakdown on Ayir Asante, the Wyoming and Holy Cross wide receiver. Please, if you enjoyed this, like, comment, subscribe to this channel. That would be excellent. I'm Nick Falato signing off. Take care of each other and have a lovely day.